Hello there. Yeah, just a quick one here. I noted with some interest earlier this week, old Jamie Carragher there, in a roundabout way, having his own little pop at Nemanja Vidic. He was comparing Van Dijk against Vidic. I think probably in defence of Van Dijk, I think that's what he was doing because Van Dijk's getting a bit of criticism this year, and rightly so, because by his own very, very high standards, he slipped. But why he's bringing Vidic in is beyond me. I'm a little bit in the Ferdinand camp. I think I read something where Rio Ferdinand's jumped to the defence of his former partner in crime, and I think he's mentioned that although Torres, for a year or two, had the Indian sign on Vidic, and he did, I think he mentioned that he only scored something like 3 goals in 2 years, and in other years he didn't do anything against Vidic. He also mentioned, I think Vidic got sent off a couple of times, with trying to be doing the dirty on Torres. That may have happened as well, but I wouldn't be having a pop at Nemanja. I mean, he was brilliant. Fantastic for us. All I'll look at, Jamie, is Van Dijk, love him. Great player. An absolutely great player. You brought him over from Southampton. You got the goalie from wherever he may have been. And those two signings, for me, transform you. Completely transform you. They pulled the team together. They were fantastic. Van Dijk, brilliant player. Like a Rolls Royce of a player. In fact, I do remember, I chuckle at it a couple of times since. I think I once rung TalkSport and I was comparing, I was having a bit of a pop at the time at Harry Maguire, who I like, but we all know he's slow. And I think I mentioned to the boys on TalkSport one morning, I think I was comparing them as like racehorses or horses. And I put, I think, Van Dijk as the Sugar of the horse world, and Maguire as the Hercules. They didn't know who Hercules was at the time. That was the funny bit. Hercules, for those that don't know it, would be the horse that Steptoe had. One's a racehorse, one's a cart horse. And Harry, I'm not having a pop at you, I'm not. But we know you're cumbersome, we know that you're slow. I like you, you're good on the ball, but we know you've got some failings. Van Dijk was, a Rolls Royce. He was fantastic on the ball. I keep saying was, because he's not the player he was. We know he's had an injury. We know it's a bad injury. We know it takes a while to come back from it. We know some people never ever do. I've not thought he's been great ever since the injury. But I think he's been even worse this year. Now, it hasn't been just him. The team aren't performing anything like they should, and I don't know why. You've only lost one cracking player. You've brought 2 or 3 in, yet you're not performing. I think a lot of it is down to how poorly Van Dijk is performing. Don't think the goal is covering himself with glory. He's not the goalie he was last year, but he's playing better than Van Dijk. And because those two aren't at 100%, I think that's one of the big reasons the team are suffering. But I'm not worried about that. That's Liverpool. I don't care how they do. I don't care when they're doing badly anyway. It's about time. But to have a go at Vidic, I found it surprising. As I say, I only look at what they do for the big teams. You've had him there for 2 or 3. I don't look at Southampton, with all due respect. I don't look at Celtic. I think he played for Celtic. I look at what he's done at Liverpool. And for a couple of seasons, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. At this moment, not great and not getting much better. Vidic may have had some problems with Torres. Yes, he may have done. May have scored the odd goal against him. May got sent off against him. That's all as may be. But on the whole, Vidic was absolutely fantastic for us. Loved his style of play. He was a 100%er. He gave everything. Took man and ball, which I love to see. But I heard a lot more about his game. I wouldn't swap Nemanja Vidic for anybody. I've loved Van Dijk for all he doesn't play for us. But I wouldn't swap Vidic for anybody. In fact, of the two, him and Ferdinand's supposed to be the more the Rolls Royce player and the classier player. I'd have had Vidic every day. They're totally different centre halves. Vidic for me is the better centre half. I loved him. So why, Jamie, you want to call him is beyond me. I think you're just trying to deflect from how badly Van Dijk is doing. If I were you, I would have had this argument in a year or two's time if Van Dijk comes back to what he was. Having this argument now is only putting more emphasis and more eyes on Van Dijk. But I mean, if you want to argue about centre halves, argue about it. If you want, I'll throw Jaap Stam in. We can go Jaap Stam against Van Dijk. They're both fellow countrymen, aren't they? By the way, I'd have Stam again. He didn't stay that long with us, unfortunately. I'd have him every day of the week over Van Dijk. Stam was just, Good grief, what a monster he was. But anyway, why have a pop at Vidic? Great player, great professional, no edge to him, just a good guy. My thoughts. If you don't like them, let me know.